Sometimes in life you take a chance that changes you forever. And if you're lucky, you find it's time to take a chance again. Okay, so part of what I wanted to talk about in this video is how we got to the point of joining Peace Corps. And I had a bachelor's degree in cinema. I'd just gotten out of school and had worked for about 1.5 years as a prison guard, of all things. And it was just one of those things where you're at a point in life where you haven't got the income, you haven't had a lot of chances to work in a your job of your own choice in your own profession. And cinema is a very tough field, especially back in the 1980s when I was trying to get in. And I was in the Chicago area looking around. I had applied for a job as the prison guard and never thinking anything was going to come of it. And lo and behold, I get a call from the warden of Illinois prisons in Danville, Illinois, and asked me if I wanted a job. And I said, well, can I think about it? He said, yeah, you've got 5 minutes till I go on to the next person on the list. So, gives you a little bit of idea about Illinois politics. You've heard about it, I'm sure. But the upshot of it is that it was the kick in the butt that I needed to really go after my dream of traveling and living abroad. And Peace Corps had been something that I'd started down that path a couple times in college and had not gotten around to filling out the application completely. And so when I got the job at the prison, I decided, well, you know, I definitely don't want to do this the rest of my life, but it's good money, and I can't really turn it down at this point. So I went ahead and applied for Peace Corps. I even did my interview in person in Chicago, which they found really entertaining because they hardly ever have somebody come in person to interview. So I was just happy to get out of Central Illinois and go to Chicago. I'd been up there quite a bit when I was looking for a job in cinema, and just decided to get up there and make a good impression. And so, yeah, it takes time. It's a real hurry up and wait kind of process. And took about 6 to 8 months to get to the point where they had called me back and said, hey, you want to go to Thailand? And it was like 7 a.m. in the morning, my time. Apparently they were on Eastern, calling from DC. And I said, yes. And so it was a good time. It was an exciting time for me. And so a little bit of the prehistory, and I was into riding horses back then, enjoyed them immensely growing up in Central Illinois, and I also enjoyed just being out in the country. But I'd always dreamed about traveling to other places, and I can start off by giving credit to Osa and Martin Johnson, who are two people from early film photography travel loggers, I guess you could call them, because that's basically what they did. They traveled the world, to Africa, to the Caribbean, to the South Pacific, the islands near Vanuatu, near the New Hebrides, and they explored in areas that had never seen movie cameras before. And they even went back and visited lands that they had been to and taken movies up to show the people the movies that they made of them, because they didn't have theaters. Some of the tribal areas especially had never seen a movie screen, let alone a movie. And so it was this kind of adventure that I wanted in my life. And I wanted to get out and see the world and spend some time living in another culture, learning another language, and working there. And so Peace Corps was the best way I could see to do that. And as I said, it was clear that I had not found exactly what I wanted with the cinema degree, and had not found exactly what I wanted for working as a prison guard, although there were some exciting moments that were good for learning experiences. And so that's what led me to get my application in and get accepted in Peace Corps. So we're talking now about January of 1987, and I had just gotten done talking to the prison and had told them that I was going to be leaving. There was an opportunity I could have actually left and come back, and they would have reserved a job for me, at least for doing a service like Peace Corps. I didn't want to. Honestly, when I left that location, I was going to shut the door on it, and I didn't want to go back. And I had people warn me about not burning bridges and not turning your back on the hand that feeds you and so forth. And in this case, I knew I wasn't going back, and I have not regretted that decision ever since that time. And so what came about after that was in early February of that year, I had to get ready to be on a plane to Seattle. And Peace Corps is not an easy job from the beginning. I mean, even the training and so forth can be kind of arduous and tough a little bit for you. I had to get my wisdom teeth out, for one thing, and even though Thailand, as it turns out, has, even back in the 1980s, they had some pretty good medical facilities, and especially for dental, but that didn't matter. Even though it was only going to be about 4 hours from my site in Phetchabun, I had to get my wisdom teeth out. So that was taken care of. At least that was one thing that couldn't happen to me while I was there. And so off I was with my bag packed to Seattle, and we went through about a 2-week process called a CREST. I think it's actually 1 week process, and it's just a lot of cross-cultural training with games. You play games like a game called Bafa Bafa, which is a cross-cultural game. It's a lot of fun, actually. And Thailand was actually one of the cultures that the creators of that game based the creation of it on, because there are such incredible differences in the way people do things there. And so we did that. A lot of us were kind of like, yeah, they're just trying to weed out people here at this point. Well, yeah, they were. Definitely were. And there were still some folks that hadn't gotten all of their shots, and so they're trying to get, some shots that they couldn't maybe get in Thailand quite so easily, although I think that was also an excuse. But we finished with that, and then we basically, once that was cleared, we were on the plane to Bangkok. And it was a group of people that I have remained friends with, many of them for years. Have lost track of a couple, have lost a couple to death, who've died of either old age or something that happened to a dear friend of mine that I have not been able to find out what happened to him. And unfortunately, that's just the way that life is. But the connections and the strength of those connections with the group that I trained with are amazingly strong. And we still communicate, and we are communicating even now as I get ready to go on this trip. So hopefully I'm going to be reconnecting with some of them in Thailand. So that's going to be fun. So we get to Peace Corps. The Peace Corps training begins in Thailand. It's about a 3-month process to go through training in Peace Corps. You're going to go through intensive language training, whatever country you're in. You're going to go through learning about the culture, learning about the government offices that you're working with, learning about the people that you're going to be working with and the projects you're going to be working with. So there's a lot to do, but the bottom line is learning about the language and the culture, I think, because all the other things you've done pretty much all your life in America, you have an idea how to develop yourself into a new job and adapt. You have an idea of how to get work done, but even that is a big thing in Thailand, because there are some cultural things that will get you if you go in with the American attitude. Well, I'm just going to go in there and get this done, and get this done, and get this done. It doesn't work that way in some places, and you have to be a little bit what we call a Jayen, cool heart in Thailand. It's a very, very big deal, and not everybody got it. There were some people that went home early because they just couldn't deal with maybe the lack of bureaucracy, even the lack of rules, the lack of keeping, as we say here in America, keeping your nose to the grindstone. Even it's depending upon the location you ended up in for your site and the organization that you're working for, and that's the other thing to understand about Peace Corps, is that they get people from many different walks of life. My background was in agriculture, basically, because I grew up on a farm. It wasn't my cinema degree that got me into Peace Corps. It was my experience growing up, kind of a generalist of sorts, and that suited me because it was a time that it was experience that I could bring, that I knew how to work with rural people. I knew how to work with farmers and rural neighborhoods, so to speak. So that was an advantage for me. I'm flexible, basically, is what means you are. I was assigned to a non-formal education center in Phetchabun province. And non-formal education in Thailand is a lot like vocational education here in the States. So the non-formal education centers that, as I understand it back then, had been set up by the World Bank, and or had been funded by the World Bank, set up by Thailand. Not too dissimilar to our own extension system, although I didn't know anything about our extension system at the time. It turned out that it led to me going into community development and also into the extension system in the United States when I returned home. But the non-formal education center that I was in Phetchabun, at least, had courses in automotive. They had cosmetology classes, and it was kind of a catch-all for kids who didn't have good luck in school and we're trying to stay active and stay in school. And there are also a lot of trainings that the center did for villages and villagers out in the provinces, different what are they called, Ampurs, which are kind of the districts, or I guess in our way of dividing things here in the States, it'd be more like counties or townships or something like that. The provinces probably were bigger than a lot of our counties are here, but I would have to say they're probably a lot like, not at all like, in a lot of ways. So really, it's just a totally different system in a lot of ways too. So the Ampurs were districts where training and things could happen, and there were people out in the districts with the non-formal ed centers that were helping with library books and getting reading programs to kids and running them through some of the Buddhist temples in villages, and it seemed like a very good program to me. And we also had some projects that I got involved in that were out in the districts, out in the different villages, that were made possible by the fact that the Non-Formal Ed Center did this kind of outreach and extension work, and would not have been really available to people if they had to come all the way into the Non-Formal Ed Center all the time, which was not it was the center of the center of the province, but still would be a pretty big deal for villagers to have to go traveling all the time to come in for training. So going to them in the villages was a big deal. And there were a couple of projects that I was able to get involved with co-workers that PeaceCorps and our funding through USAID and things like that were made very good connections in terms of making them work. I'd have to say the ones that I did with my coworkers who already had some ideas of what they thought could be possible to worked the best. I'll have to say that one of the projects that I proposed later on in my 2 years there pretty much totally bombed. It didn't really take hold and was probably more of a, I don't know. It was a good idea, but just not enough time to really act on it. So we'll talk about that one a little bit too. The first project that we did was a project with weaving, and my friend Prayut Lakem, who's my co-worker there and still is a friend, was responsible for helping me connect with a couple of different villages where the center was scheduled to do weaving training with large frame looms, which you saw in the preview, the opening title sequence, and you're seeing video pictures of it right now. Isn't that amazing? And the project was a good one in my mind because it was enabling the center to leave looms that they couldn't leave there otherwise. So what we did was we worked with the local carpenter. All of the looms that were being used for training were actually locally built, and so we had to go out and source materials. We had to have a plan for cutting and creating the loom, and the carpenter knew what he needed, and so it was kind of fun to go around with him, with somebody, a real craftsman who knew what he was looking for in terms of the wood and the and he, like we said, we had the paper plans, which you're seeing on screen right now, and the only pieces out of that we had to order from town were things like the shuttlecock that goes back and forth between carrying the cross threads, and also the piece that separates the threads coming through from the roller. And those pieces we had to purchase from Bangkok. But other than that, the whole thing was built and locally sourced by a local craftsman, which I thought was pretty cool. And the other thing that was neat was that we were able to have them create a couple of looms that each village could have after the center left and went on to other locations for the training. And the teacher that was working with us at that point, Noi, she was very good at working with people, very humble person, but also very knowledgeable of her craft. And I was fortunate to have some fabric made for me, which I have some to share with you here, some photos of that, and some video. But the main thing about the non-formal education centers was that they helped hire people who could teach and get them out to the villages where they could work and help to teach people in the villages about different skills that they might not ever have a chance to otherwise. And a lot of the hope for this particular project was that it would be an income generation project for women in the villages. And I don't know that that ever happened, actually. I mean, it's hard when you're there for only 2 years to know everything that happens with the different projects. I believe that one of the villages actually changed names or moved on, and some of the family members moved to different places. So things like that happen. You know, you got to expect that will happen. The next project that we worked with was actually a little bit more successful in longevity, because the co-worker that I worked with on it was able to keep it going. It was more of a revolving fund type project for creating aloe vera shampoo with locally sourced aloe vera plants from the villages where the trainings were held. And there was a problem with the cost of shampoo, and because of that, you would also have problems with head lice for children, especially kids. You know, if they had to go to school, and you know, it happens here in the States, kids go to school with lice, and it spreads from one kid to another very quickly, because they are very quick little devils. And but the shampoo project was a good one, because we had a chance to create locally made aloe vera shampoo, and then the ingredients could be purchased. If the key ingredients like lanolin and the sudsing agent and maybe a fragrance and things like that could be purchased at the Non-Formal Ed Center, and the Non-Formal Ed Center could continue to purchase those ingredients then and keep the fund going. And so the grant allowed us to get that going and keep it going for quite some time, apparently several years at least. And so that was fun, and it was a cool project, and you're seeing the images from that. The only thing I wish I had done, I wish I'd gotten a little bit more involved with actually getting my hair washed in some of those pictures that you see there, and maybe had a little more fun with it, because it did seem to have a lot of opportunities for fun, and but it was a cool project. So thanks for watching this video. I hope if you get a chance you like and subscribe to this channel. I will say that I am hoping to make this a monetized channel at some point. You have to get to 1,000 subscriptions to get to that point. I hope to make this part of my income going forward as I age. I'm 60 now, and I'm hoping to survive many, many years, doing whatever it takes to fight off any recurrences of cancer. And you know, so this is definitely a way that I want to go. I need a life change, and this is one of them. You're watching it right now. So the relaxation I get from doing this, and the enjoyment I'm getting from doing it, and really connecting back to my first love of filmmaking is very helpful to me. So please like and subscribe. Okay.